Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our special International Women's Day discussion. I'm gonna have you guys introduce yourself at the beginning, well, right now, and we'd love to just hear where you guys are from and your background.
Thank you very much, Hilary. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you both today. I am Keelan Buckley. I am the founder of Do. I am all about personal development. I am a mental fitness coach and a former management consultant. I am dialing in from the north coast of Ireland, so I can see rolling hills and greenery behind me here or in front of me. And I'm all about empowerment, giving people the skills and understanding to be in charge of their lives and to gain that agency. So I am totally loving today's topic and all about empowering and providing inclusion for everyone. So thank you very much for having me.
It's amazing.
And hi, my name is Aishwari Shetty. So I am a lead specialist working with Future Match currently, and I am talking from Leeds right now at the moment. And I'm really excited to be here for this podcast and really excited to share my thoughts on inclusivity and empowerment for women. And yeah, that's it from me.
And I'm Hilary Ose-Tutu, and I'm gonna host the podcast today. So if we get into the first question, in what way have you seen inclusion or the lack of inclusion affect women in the industry?
Well, as an ex-management consultant or a former management consultant, I've been on the receiving end of some really strong policies around women inclusion and, more importantly, women enablement. And I think that's really, really important that there's strategic objectives in place and things are tracked and measured and recognized in that sense. The company I used to work with actually had a objective to have gender parity by 2025, I think. I'm not sure where they've got to with that, but I think it's really important that that's even a starting point, that those things are in place, because when they're not, change doesn't happen. And change like this has to be run from a business perspective. The World Economic Forum estimates 135 years for global gender parity. So it really is important that we start to put policies and steps in place to make that change happen, because look, it hasn't happened to date with goodwill and morals and all of that kind of nice stuff. And more importantly, the business case is now written, right? No longer is it a question of will gender balance actually improve innovation? Will it improve decision making? Will it improve psychological safety required for innovation? Harvard has been able to prove, and loads of places have done some fantastic studies to prove that gender equality, when it's in place, it improves the bottom line in a big, big way. So I think we kind of have to get with the program in that sense. There's nothing that we need to wait for. The data's there for the grasping.
Yeah, I want to say that, I would say I've been kind of lucky and, I've like worked here for like 3 years with different companies. And I've been lucky to see that, women have been made inclusive in the workplaces that I've been, I would not say on a completely, on a larger scale, but definitely, on some smaller points where, where they felt that, your thoughts and your perspective should be heard. They made sure that, be it on a one-to-one call or be it on like all women teams call, they made sure like, if if you're facing any challenges or something, they are being heard. So I would say I've been lucky, to be honest, that, I have been a part of organizations where women were made inclusive, and yeah, that's all I can share at this question. Yeah, sorry, Hillary, I didn't have much to add here. You can cut the last part.
Yep. So I love this question, Hilary. I thought this was really totally got to my heart. I've been really, really fortunate to be surrounded by a lineage of really strong and independent women, right from my grandparents, my grandmothers, right through to my own mum, and extending to mentors and leaders who have invested and have taken the time to invest in me along the way. And that just wouldn't have happened. But I also think it's modeling. I think I'm super fortunate that I have, people have trudged the path ahead of me. As an example, like I'm super inspired by my 90 odd grandmother now who has Alzheimer's, but back in the day, whenever she was developing her career, she was a qualified teacher in rural Northern Ireland, and it was at a time whenever if you got married in certain villages and certain towns, the cultural norm was, okay, you're married now, you're not allowed to teach anymore. And she was kind of like, well, no, that's not going to suit me, thank you very much. So she basically moved with her husband at the time to find a village, find a school, find a post that would allow her to teach and also raise a family at the same time. So I think growing up with that as a reality within the family, there's a lot of females that have kind of trudged their own path, and that really gave me the belief that anything is possible, especially in those times. Like, she's an absolute hellraiser of a woman and wouldn't take no for an answer. So yeah, I suppose my inspiration comes from right back from that kind of lineage, right through to people who have supported me all the way through. I wouldn't have got this far without them, for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Louis. That's totally great. That's really awesome, Kaylin, that you had like people around you whom you could look up to, and I really love that. For me, like, I would say like my family, like I come from a conservative and a bit orthodox family. So my parents, they were happy for me to work, but they also had, I also had some kind of restrictions with, with working, like making sure, like, I'm not like my company is not far away from my home, like it's at a walkable distance and all. So that kind of had some kind of limitations for me. But I always wanted to work. I always wanted to kind of explore. And think like my father had this, once you get married, you can do whatever you want. So that was the case. And so once I was married, like, I got to work, I got to explore. And, in my scenario, I would say, like, the person that whom I've really loved and who has inspired me a lot, I would say, is the Priyanka Chopra. So she's an Indian celebrity, and coming from India, like her journey from becoming like a Bollywood actress and then turning into a global icon that she is today is what has stand out to me. That's been really inspiring because her journey is truly inspiring, like the way she shows like the hard work, the determination that she shows, and her ability to kind of smoothly navigate through different industry, through different cultures. I feel that kind of gives an example of how resilient and adaptable she is. And I think for me, that's what inspired me, the qualities that I kind of get to learn from her. Like, if, with talent, with hard work and determination, you can achieve what you want to. And in her case, it was like being globally recognized. And yeah, I think that's she's the one whom I've really, followed her journey, and I've looked up to her. But I guess today we are really lucky that we get to see so many women, whom we can really look up to. Like there's Kamala Harris, whom we can really look up to. And I think women entrepreneurs today, they are kind of doing so well. I think even they are the ones who kind of inspire me a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think I think having that modeled ahead of us, that it becomes really, really powerful whenever we're allowed to whenever we deliberately take that step back and go, well, what's the difference between me and them? What are the learnings I can take? What are my own versions of their challenges and their hurdles in my own context? And, with my clients, I'll often, if they have someone in their life that they are inspired by, I'd be like, okay, in this situation, in this workplace challenge, if they were there, how would they react? How would they respond? And that's whenever those models can be really inspiring, because they allow us to make change too, or be braver in those moments that are called for, allow us to kind of walk the walk, which is fab. Yeah,
No, that's truly great. Yeah, agree with you. Yeah.
We lost Hillary again.
Oh, we lost her again. Yes.
I think so. Hopefully she's able to cut some of this and kind of slice it together. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. No, not. You're all good. Alrighty. Would you like to go first this time? Yeah, sure. I think when it comes to changes for inclusivity, I'd say the first thing that, that comes to my mind is, having a safe space to have open conversations. Because I feel when you have a safe space to speak openly about, be it gender biases or stereotypes, or address any changes that, for women that come from different race, ethnicity, disability, anything, this space allows you to speak about that, address those changes. And, it also sometimes, as women, as humans, we tend to carry some unconscious biases. We also get to address them and get to become more aware of those biases and educate us and kind of address the challenges in the right way. So I think for me, the first thing that definitely comes to mind is having a safe space to have open conversations.
Yeah, that's such a valid point, and not as easy to facilitate or to nurture as we would like it to be. I believe to have those safe places, to create those safe places, it requires nurturing. It requires real cultural shifts in terms of psychological safety and building that trust. And also, again, back to modeling, modeling that I can make mistakes. These are the types of mistakes I'm making. This is what I'm learning from it. These are also my biases. All of us are walking around with biases. There's a test that I get a lot of my clients to do from Harvard, which is the racism quiz. So most of us, regardless of our background, are walking around with a higher than we would probably like to admit, or a higher than palatable level of racism. And that's down to our beliefs, our biases, our unconscious biases. Like, I think it's really, really important that there's a place for those conversations to happen, because that's the only way that those biases can be addressed. You gotta air them. You gotta give them room to breathe, or else shame and all of those defensiveness and all those unhelpful kind of traits grow from there. So yeah, and I think also there's a big requirement to ensure that the agenda is inclusive, fully inclusive, that it isn't just from a white person perspective.
Yes.
And that requires deliberate engagement and deliberate, like, taking a backseat and understanding. from that. So I suppose I would love that in the next 5 years that it's not this CSR initiative or this edge of a company. You've got the D&I team doing some really fun initiatives. I think that it becomes an undeniable reality that's underpinned by real structural change. Again, thankfully, the data is now being proven that it increases innovation and it increases diversity of thought, it increases competitive edge, increases engagement and retention, and all of those metrics that, right, businesses are businesses. Those are the things that they're tracking. But now it actually matters. If you want to remain competitive and you want to remain attractive to the best talent, this has to become a reality, rather than it being a fringe goal that's a nice little box tick. And there's lots of ways that companies are really leading the way to make that happen. But yeah, I think that's for me in 5 years that we're not having conversations like this, that the conversation has evolved from there.
Yeah. And also, sorry, Hillary, just wanted to add, and I think, we could also use this place, to also speak about our health, our mental wellness, because, as women, I think it makes you feel secure or happy that, okay, you're not the only person that's, who has gone through this, who has this problem, there's someone else. And, you get to see that, you get to know that, okay, there's another way I could kind of, tackle this thing, or there are some more ways, like just by speaking to someone, just by sharing, that you're not the only person. And I feel having such conversations, the respect and for each other kind of grows. You tend to understand each other more well.
Yeah, I love that. Really, really love that, because once those kind of conversations happen, then true belonging
Yeah.
place, and collaboration and all that kind of good stuff. Yeah. And then that's the place that people can take risks and they can grow
Yes.
and they can challenge themselves and really get out of their comfort zone when that foundation is in place. So yeah, I absolutely love that. Yeah. Mhm. I don't think things need to be super complicated. I think it's providing space. I think it's also providing permission. I know from a consultancy perspective, we used to always have we had, volunteer days, charity days, or we had loads of different initiatives in place. But what actually counted to ensure that we used them was like a chargeable code. We needed somewhere to put our time. So I think there's just some fundamental business operation things that probably need to be put in place, but also like modeling from the top. I think there's always going to be a desire and an openness from new recruits and the grads and people forming their charging their path in their career. But unless the managers and the leaders are also in the room, they're not going to feel like they can be there either during working time. So I think, yeah, there's some clear operational things that could be put in place. But yeah, modeling I think is a really key one. What do you think, Aisha?
I feel the same, Kaylin, as you said, having to do right things where, everyone could come together and contribute towards it, be it charity or getting yourself involved into some kind of, how would you say it, different activity classes as well, just where you get to channel your energy somewhere, network with more people and just have that safe space. I think that's really important. Yeah.
I
Yeah. My advice, and this is really from my own learnings, Hilary, is to confront perfectionism head on, is to really see it for what it is and embrace the fact that the more imperfect we are, the more mistakes you make, the more you allow yourself to make mistakes, that is the place that you will grow and learn, and get to wherever it is that you want to get to. I spent a lot of my professional career really being my growth being stunted by crippling levels of perfectionism. It would turn up in procrastination and then bursts of like panicked like activity, and it just always felt like I was that swan. That kind of analogy. And then the only other thing I would say is to be unapologetically yourself. I now with confidence can say that I do show up with that level of authenticity, but it's been a journey to get there. And it's been a journey to understand who I am, what I like about myself, what my values are, the bits that I maybe don't love as much as I could. And I think once we learn to embrace that, then we can be unstoppable and we can seize opportunities because we know that we can cope. We know that we can learn. We know that we can be courageous. But if we're always coming from a place of like, I must not mess this up, or I must get this absolutely correct every single time, those are impossible, unattainable standards to meet, and definitely impossible to meet all of the time. So what I would love to say to my younger self and to yourself, you're just in those like first years of a really awesome career ahead of you, is to let go of that stuff. And the best way to do that is to challenge it head on as much as you possibly can and get a mentor in place. Hopefully, whether it's Ash or someone else in the company, surround yourself with women and men that are leading the way and embracing that vulnerability of making mistakes and doing it anyway. Because that's where we can learn.
Love your answer, Kelly.
Mhm.
I think just to add on to that, I would say, looking at my journey, I would say just one thing that, never let self-doubt hold you back. That's one thing, because I think sometimes you are put on certain expectations and the tendency to kind of, like Kaylin said, to do things in a perfect way sometimes, creates that self-doubt. Okay, am I capable of doing this? So I think just don't let that hold you back. It's okay if you fail. You are just going to learn from it. It's okay to start again. Just be confident in yourself and your abilities, and don't let that self-doubt like ruin your life. Like, just be positive, and like, completely agree with Kaylin's answer as well. Like, surrounding yourself with people, with peers who are there to support, who are always there to support and uplift you. Surrounding yourself and keeping a network of people, like whom you look up to, and people whom you really admire. Even following them, knowing how their journey has been, can really be helpful to know that, okay, their journey has not been perfect as well. So you cannot expect your journey to be perfect pitch as well. There are going to be some bumps. You just have to learn how to get through it. So yeah, that's
Exactly.
one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, ride that wave. And I think be the beginner. Allow yourself to be the beginner. And don't expect yourself to have it right first time. That learner's mindset, if you can hone that, you're going to be unstoppable for sure. And, to kind of demyth that, like, overnight successes don't happen. Kufa, I'm sure he will share, or if he hasn't already, he'll share his journey to where he's got to today. If you click onto any podcast of the Diary of a CEO, they all have stories. They all have stories of adversity and overcoming them. They all have what I like to call squiggly career paths. None of this is straightforward. So once we kind of like, I wish I would have known that at such a young age. Because I just thought it was like you get the grad job, then you get promoted, then you get promoted, then you get and so on and so forth. And that doesn't have to be our reality anymore. And yeah, that's kind of it for me. I think this is a tricky one, to make it meaningful. Obviously, there's lots of things we can put in place, and as an organization grows, most will have a women, allyship kind of group, where that will happen. I think it's about that network, but asking for a mentor. I think this is where we can learn from our male counterparts. They're totally content with asking for what they need. Like, it doesn't even occur to them that is something that they should like deliberate over. Once they know what they need to get to the next step or to learn the next thing, they don't spin their wheels figuring out, well, how am I going to make that happen? They just ask. And I think that it's brilliant to have formal structures in place and cultures that enable all of this and mentorship programs and things. But once you've got that self-awareness and you understand, okay, this is my gap, or this is the thing I need to get to the next step or to learn or grow, ask for it. Because once you start asking, that's whenever people come to help. Nobody can read our minds, and nobody's going to take time out to help us either. But once we get clear and actually ask for it, then usually people show up. That's been my experience. But if I've been waiting in the background for stuff to magic out of thin air, it doesn't happen at all as well. Yeah, I think that would be my advice, just to ask. As simple as that.
Well, firstly, Kaylin, that was a great answer. To be honest, this is something I really realized a year back. Like, you need to ask if you want something, and you cannot wait for some magic to happen. And that's so true. That's something I really experienced, and I completely agree with Kaylin on that. If you want to achieve something in life, if you think that, this is where I want to get in my career or in my role to move ahead, then just ask. Look for people who can mentor you to get over there. Look for people who can help you with your development. And yeah, I completely agree with that. And another, I think, I can say that where we women can definitely, when it comes to supporting other women, even being with acknowledging them for the achievements, or even the smaller milestones. It doesn't have to be professional, can be personal as well. If they have done like a 2K marathon run, like amazing, just acknowledging them for that. I think even the smallest, whenever you value or respect a woman or acknowledge them for even the smallest things, I think that can really boost the motivation that you need, and it can really help you. So I think, yeah, that's just one more thing I would add to it. Yeah.
I love that, because what we do when we take the time to do that is we allow people to be seen and heard, and to be valued in that sense. And I love the idea of just still celebrating the small wins. Life doesn't happen, the big moments will take care of themselves. That's what I always think. The celebrations always come for the big moments. But yeah, noticing the small, those bits of efforts, those actions to get out of our comfort zone and to do something hard, yeah, that can make all the difference. And someone taking the time to notice that,
Yeah.
the care, that can really, really have a ripple effect. I love that. Really, really love that. I'm going to take that on myself. Oh,
Thank you so much, Hillary, for for having us and to kind of give me this first time experience with podcast. I
Mm.
must say I was super duper nervous. And when I tend to get nervous, I just like answer fast, blah, 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 blah. So I'm very sorry for this was your first video. And if I kind of like messed up a little, so sorry for that. But thank you so much for having me here. And Kaylin, I just want to say that, the way you kind of answered your questions, the way you answered, the perspective and the thoughts that you have kind of gives me to look at things in a different way, and that's really helpful. I really love the way you answer. It's the you kind of think from the structure, from the body, how things should actually work and from where it should start, and that's something really a good insight for me to look at. Thank you so much for that. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's really lovely to hear. Yeah, this has been a really awesome insight and also a really great opportunity to recognize perseverance. It wins out, right? And these are just like little blips, little bumps. And at the end, I think once it's all edited, it's going to be an epic podcast. It really, really is. And I feel very privileged that you have invited me into your company, into your space, to share some insights. It's been awesome. I've learned loads. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
You too.
Thank you. You too. Have a nice day, guys.
Bye. Bye.